Now, if you look at the papers this morning, it's awash with this strike that organized labor has called for, and statements coming from the government as well as the Attorney General of the Federation, who is saying that the strike is illegal, and the federal government is saying that labor should be considerate as it is with its demand, because what labor is demanding could cripple the economy. But from your perspective, let's look at first how labor is pushing forward its demands for workers.
Yeah, I thank you very much for having me. You see, this issue, I do not expect labor to call for strike now. You know, yeah. Why? Because there are processes in place. If you look at the Trade Dispute Act, Section 31, I mean, allows labor to give notice of 15 days. You know, at least we're going to strike on this day. But that was not done. And that is why the federal government is saying this is illegal. And again, I strongly believe that when you use your worst weapon, you know, at the beginning of the war, what else do you have to, you know, go ahead? So I think labor should, you know, gradually take some steps before we get to this point.
It has been engaging government for some time now. Recall that the 2019, talking about the law pushed by former President Buhari with regards to minimum wage, expired April the 18th of this year. And so labor has been speaking with regards to that. That in itself was not enough information or bringing this forward before the government to say that we are going to head for a strike as it is, because it says they have been engaging the tripartite committee with regards to this matter. Okay,
you see, in bargaining, there's a point of taking action, but you must follow the right process. Okay? Labor calling for negotiation is not a bad, in fact, it's expected.
Right.
But they are still at the talking table. I would tell you, asking for 615,000 that the government is really pushing back hardly on. It's, for me, I mean, my personal opinion, I don't see that working.
But they actually beat it down to
494,000, you know, from 497 to 494, because, you know, government also increased from 57,000 to 60,000. So if you look at the calculation, they're doing trade-off of 3,000 naira, you know. But again, come to think about it, labor is asking for the right thing at this point in time. Yeah, they're asking for the right thing, but they should be methodical about it. Methodical in the sense that, first, what we're asking for is really reasonable. You know, you look at 494,000, who can even afford that? Let's start from that. And, you know, there are things that they need to consider, but government needs to also come out with data to support their own decision. That's one of the beginning of this stuff with labor. Labor say, okay, if you're saying 60,000, what are your bases? We have bases. These are our bases. You know, see inflation, see the, I mean, purchasing power, see, you know, several economic factors affecting us. So you come up with your data. Let us meet at the point of conversation. But I think, again, why labor went to that extreme is because they are seeing that government is not ready to move. And
is that what you also think?
Yeah, that's what I think. Labor, I think that labor, I mean, government is not ready to move. Reasonably, 60,000 naira.
But government came out to give reasons for the 60,000 naira, about 14 of them, if I could just quickly touch on some of it.
Okay.
The first one, 35,000 naira wage award for all treasury paid federal workers, 100 billion naira for the procurement of CNG fuel buses and CNG conversion kits, 125 billion naira conditional grants and financial inclusion to MSMEs, 25,000 naira each to be shared to 15 million households for 3 months, 185 billion naira palliatives loans to states to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal, and 200 billion naira to support the cultivation of hectares of land to boost food production, 75 billion naira to strengthen the manufacturing sector. And it talked about the release of 42,000 metric tons of grains from strategic reserves, purchase and onward distribution of 60,000 metric tons of rice from the Rice Millers Association, talking about the light rail that was commissioned in Abuja, in addition to the freedom of civil servants to engage in agriculture. Federal government has approved the inclusion of ICT services for all the alternative sources of income. Those are the reasons.
Okay, but between you and I and everyone listening to us, the question is, are these things realistically going to be implemented? We've seen things like this in the past, where government will say, okay, we're going to do X, Y, Z, during the last negotiation in 2018. That's how they promised, we'll give you buses, we'll give you, but nothing happened at the end of the day. You're going to give 25,000.
Well, we've seen government's efforts with the CNGs in recent times, talking about the plants that were also put in place in one of the states in the southeast as it is, and across the country. We've seen what government is pushing forward for, and then we also see the domestication of even the production of the CNGs, and then we have conversion stations with regards to the CNGs. Absolutely. That is on the one hand. We've also seen this matter of the 25,000 naira to be shared to 15 million households. There are those.
How many people have received that 25,000?
I do not have the data, but the government says they have pushed that.
Let government show us the data of those they are giving their money to. And let me tell you, you see, giving 25,000 naira to families, to me personally, I don't think that's what government should be doing. They should rather set up structures for people to generate that money for themselves. How long would you continue to give? Okay, for 6 months. After 6 months, what happens? What happens after 6 months? Right. And you just say, okay, you give 25,000 naira. What would 25,000 naira do for people now? I mean, we want long-term things, something that, will last for the long term. You want to give 75 billion naira to manufacturing. One person in manufacturing sector can swallow that 75 billion for all you care. That's right. So we need a lot more than that.